The Fall of Honor. The sun was setting on the red desert planet of Arcanus. The sky burned orange and purple, casting long shadows over the ancient stone city. In the center of this city stood Queen Lyra, the proud warrior of the Valkar race. She was tall and strong, with long silver hair that flowed like a river of light. Her blade, known as the Starfang, had won battles that saved her people many times. Everyone in Valkar knew her name, and they respected her honor. But tonight, something was wrong. The city was quiet. Too quiet. The usual cheers of the people were gone. Lyra felt a cold chill in her heart. Her closest guards were restless, whispering secrets she could not hear. Then, without warning, the gates of the palace burst open. Dark figures poured in, enemies who had hidden among her people. "Queen Lyra," a cruel voice said, "your reign ends tonight." Lyra's eyes flashed with anger. She drew Starfang with a swift motion, the blade gleaming under the fading light. But the enemies were many, and her own guards hesitated, confused by the sudden attack. "Traitors," Lyra spat. "You will regret this." But it was too late. Her enemies surrounded her. They knocked Starfang from her hands and cut her silver hair. Strands fell to the ground like fallen stars. With each lock gone, a piece of her pride seemed to die. Her name, once spoken with respect, was now forbidden. Her people were told to forget her, to erase her from history. The city elders declared her dishonored. "Lyra is no longer queen," they said. "Her name will be forgotten. She is banished." Lyra stood alone on the palace steps, her head bowed and her heart shattered. She felt the weight of loss more than any wound from a sword. She was no longer a warrior, no longer a queen, just a shadow in the land she once ruled. As she turned to leave, a whisper brushed past her ear. "Do not give up, Lyra. Not yet." She looked around but saw no one. The night swallowed her as she disappeared into the desert, her silver hair now gone, and her honor broken. Days passed. Lyra wandered through the harsh deserts, fighting hunger, thirst, and her own despair. She remembered her battles, the friends lost, the people who believed in her. But the pain of betrayal burned deeper than any wound. She could not forget the look in her enemy's eyes, cold, cruel, and certain. One evening, as the stars began to shine, she found shelter in an old ruin. There she heard stories of a stranger, a human who lived far beyond the borders of her world. A human who was said to be a master of crafting weapons unlike any other. Some said his blades could hold the power of the stars. Lyra's heart flickered with a small flame of hope. If she could find this human, maybe she could get a new blade. Maybe she could rise again. But the path was dangerous. Many had tried to reach the human and failed. Her enemies watched her every move, hoping she would disappear forever. Still, Lyra knew she had no choice. She was lost without her honor, lost without her blade. To regain her place, she had to find the human, and trust a stranger to forge her strength once more. Back in the city, rumors spread quickly. The name Lyra was whispered like a ghost. Some said she was dead, others said she was broken beyond repair. But a few believed she was still alive, waiting for the right moment to return. Among the people, a young warrior named Kale watched the horizon. He remembered the queen's courage and believed in her. "She will come back," he said quietly. "And when she does, the world will tremble." The night was silent again, but a storm was coming, a storm that would shake the foundations of Arcanus and change the fate of the Valkar forever. Lyra's fall was only the beginning. The forgotten name, the desert winds howled through the empty ruins where Lyra hid. The cold night wrapped around her like a heavy cloak, but her heart burned with a silent fire. She was no longer queen. Her name was erased. Her hair was gone. She was nothing in the eyes of her people, a shadow cast aside, forgotten and alone. Yet Lyra refused to disappear. Days turned into weeks. The sun scorched the sands by day, and the chilling cold bit her skin by night. Every step she took was painful, but her will was stronger than her body. She thought of the Starfang, her blade, now lost in enemy hands, It was not just a weapon. It was the symbol of her honor, her strength, her soul. Without it, she was broken. One evening, as the purple twilight painted the sky, Lyra sat near a small fire. Her eyes scanned the horizon, searching for a sign, a whisper of hope. She had heard the stories, rumors whispered among travelers and traders. A human from a distant world, skilled in crafting blades with powers beyond imagination. The thought both excited and scared her. Could this human really help her? Could he bring back what was stolen? Then, from the shadows, a figure appeared, tall, lean, and wearing a worn cloak. The stranger's eyes glowed with quiet confidence. Lyra's hand moved instinctively to her empty belt, remembering the weight of her lost blade. "I heard you seek a blade," the stranger said, his voice calm but strong. Lyra studied him carefully. There was something different about this human, something she could not explain. "Why help me?" she asked, her voice cold but curious. The human smiled faintly. "Because honor is not just a name or hair. It is in the strength to rise when all fall. I have no kingdom, no throne, but I understand what you lost." Lyra felt a flicker of trust. She nodded slowly. "Then show me." Over the next days, Lyra followed the human across deserts and rocky hills to a hidden forge, carved into the side of a mountain. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and the scent of burning metal. Strange machines hummed and sparks flew like fireflies. The human worked silently, hammering glowing metal into a shape that seemed alive, a blade unlike any Lyra had ever seen. It pulsed with a faint light, as if holding the power of the stars themselves. "This blade," the human said, "is more than metal. It carries your spirit. Only you can unlock its true power." Lyra reached out and grasped the hilt. A surge of energy rushed through her, warming her cold heart. She felt a strength growing inside, not just physical, but deep in her soul. "I will fight," she whispered. "Not for revenge, but for my people." But not everyone was pleased. Far away in the palace she once ruled, whispers of Lyra's return stirred fear. The traitors who took her honor now trembled. They sent spies and assassins to find the human who dared to help her. One shadow moved faster than the rest, a deadly assassin named Vark, known for his cruel efficiency. He tracked Lyra's steps, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Yet Lyra was not the same broken woman he remembered. With her new blade and the human's training, she was becoming a force to be feared. One night, as Lyra practiced swinging the blade under the silver moon, Vark attacked. Silent and swift, he appeared from the darkness, dagger raised. Lyra barely had time to react. The blade sang through the air, meeting the assassin's strike. Sparks flew as metal clashed. The fight was fierce, but Lyra's new strength was unmatched. With a final strike, Vark fell, defeated but alive. "Tell your masters," Lyra said, breathing hard. "I will rise again, and no one will stop me." Back at the forge, the human watched her closely. "This is only the beginning," he said. "Your enemies will come stronger, but you will be ready." Lyra looked at the blade in her hand, now shining brightly in the dark. "Then let them come." The fire of her honor was no longer broken. It was burning hotter than ever. Forging the blade, the mountain forge glowed deep in the night, a hidden sanctuary far from the eyes of enemies. Inside, Lyra watched closely as the human worked. His hands moved with skill and purpose, shaping molten metal into a blade unlike any she had seen before. The air buzzed with energy. Ancient power stirred in the forge's heart. "This blade will not only be sharp," the human said quietly. "It will carry a legacy, a power lost to your people for centuries." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "How can metal hold power?" "It's not just metal," he answered. "It is forged with a star's heart, a rare mineral that channels energy. With it, the blade can cut through armor, space, even fear." She reached out and touched the glowing blade. A pulse of warmth spread through her fingers and up her arm like a breath of life. "But there is more," the human continued. "This blade will bond with you. It will know your strength and your spirit. Only you can wield its full power. Lyra's heart raced. She felt a stirring hope she hadn't known in months. This blade could be her key to reclaiming everything stolen, her honor, her name, her place. Days passed in the forge. Lyra trained tirelessly, learning to move with the new blade's strange weight and energy. The human was a harsh teacher, pushing her past pain and doubt. Strength alone will not win your battles, he warned. You must master your mind, your fears, your doubts. Sometimes Lyra struggled. The memories of betrayal haunted her. The pain of losing everything almost crushed her will. But the blade sang in her hand, a steady promise of power and redemption. One night while the forge was quiet, Lyra looked at the stars through a crack in the mountain. She wondered about her people, the ones who had forgotten her, who called her name. Forbidden. Will they remember me? She whispered to the night. They will, the human answered, appearing silently behind her. But first, you must become more than a queen. You must become a legend. But dark forces were already moving. Far from the forge, the traitors, council gathered in shadowed halls. Their leader, Lord Vasher, was a cruel man with eyes like black ice. She grows stronger, Vasher said, slamming a fist on the table. That human has given her a blade of power. We cannot let her return. His advisors nodded, fear and hatred burning in their eyes. Send the hunters, Vashar commanded. Find her, kill her, destroy that human if necessary. The council's whisper became a roar of plans and plots. The city's fate and Lyra's life hung in the balance. One evening, as Lyra rested near the forge's entrance, a strange sound shattered the calm, a low rumble, growing louder. The ground shook violently. Rocks tumbled from the mountain walls. The forge's fire flickered dangerously. An attack, the human said, drawing a hidden weapon. From the darkness emerged a group of heavily armed soldiers, Vashar's hunters. Their armor glowed with strange tech, and their eyes burned. With cruel intent, Lyra gripped her new blade. The warmth pulsed stronger than ever. This is the moment, she thought. To fight or fall. The battle was fierce. The hunters attacked with speed and power, but Lyra moved with a new grace. Her blade cut through their weapons and defenses. The human fought beside her, his skill matching theirs. But the hunters were many, and the mountain forge was not built for war. Just as Lyra felt the tide turning against them, the blade glowed fiercely. A beam of light shot from its edge, blasting several soldiers away. The blade knows me, Lyra realized, breathless but fierce. And it will fight for me. The hunters retreated, wounded and shocked. Vashar's plan had failed. For now. After the battle. Lyra sat by the dying forge fire. Her body ached, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. This blade is not just a weapon, she said softly. It is my hope, my revenge, my future. The human nodded. And the galaxy will hear your name again. Lyra looked at the stars. The path ahead was dark and dangerous, but she was no longer alone. She had power and she had a purpose. Let them come, she whispered. I am ready. Training and rising. The first light of dawn broke over the jagged peaks surrounding the hidden forge. Lyra stood alone on a rocky ledge, her new blade, Starfang reborn, gleaming in the soft morning light. The air was thin and cold, but her breath came steady, filled with quiet determination. Since the battle with the hunters, her body ached in places she never knew could hurt. Muscles torn, skin bruised, and a fierce fire burning deep inside. Every scar was a reminder of her fall, but also of her rising. The human who forged her blade watched from the shadows. You have strength, he said quietly, but strength is nothing without control. Lyra turned to face him. Teach me. I want to be more than the queen they cast down. I want to be a force that cannot be broken. The human nodded, stepping forward. Then your training begins. Days blurred into weeks. Lyra endured relentless training, The human pushed her beyond pain, teaching her to move like water, fluid, yet unstoppable. She learned to read her enemies' breaths, their intentions, their weaknesses. Her new blade was no ordinary weapon. It was alive with power, humming softly in her hand. The star's heart inside the blade pulsed, responding to her will. But with power came responsibility. The human taught her meditation, control of mind and spirit, to keep the blade's energy from consuming her. Each morning, Lyra faced harsh tests, running across rocky cliffs, climbing sheer walls, sparring against the human's fast strikes. Each night she fought her own fears, the fear of failure, of losing everything again. One evening, under a sky bursting with stars, Lyra faced her greatest challenge. The human arranged a test, a simulated battle against shadows, illusions designed to confuse and break her spirit. At first, the shadows overwhelmed her. She stumbled, fell, almost gave up. But then she remembered her lost honor, her forbidden name. With a roar, she stood again, her blade glowing bright. Cutting through the darkness, Lyra struck down the shadows one by one, her spirit shining brighter than any star. Far away, Lord Vasher's anger grew. News of Lyra's survival and new power spread like wildfire. He could not let her regain strength. Sending spies and mercenaries, he sought to destroy her and the human who helped her. In the city, rumors twisted into fear. The people who once shunned Lyra began whispering her name in secret, hope and doubt mixing in their voices. Kale, the young warrior loyal to Lyra, gathered a small band of followers. She fights not for herself, he told them, but for all of us. We must stand ready. One night, as Lyra rested in the forge, a warning came. Scouts reported enemy forces moving toward the mountain. Vashar was sending more hunters, stronger, smarter, and more ruthless. The human prepared weapons and traps, but Lyra's mind raced. She knew this battle would test everything she had learned. If she failed, her honor would be lost forever. I will face them, she said, gripping Starfang, not as a broken queen, but as the Valkar's true warrior. The human placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Remember, the blade is part of you now. Trust it. When the hunters arrived, the mountain echoed with the clash of steel and cries of battle. Lyra fought like a storm unleashed. Her blade sang through the air, glowing with fierce light, cutting through enemy armor and fear. Her followers joined the fight, inspired by her courage. Together they turned the tide, pushing Vasher's forces back into the shadows. But victory came at a cost. Kyle fell, wounded but alive. Lyra caught him, her heart heavy but burning with new resolve. This is only the beginning, she whispered, and I will not fall again. As dawn broke, Lyra stood tall on the battlefield. Her hair had not grown back, but her spirit was stronger than ever. The name forbidden by her enemies was now spoken in whispers of hope and courage. The Queen was rising and the galaxy was watching. The enemy's shadow. The air was thick with tension as Lyra and the humans stood on the cliff's edge overlooking the vast city of Arcanus below. The once proud capital now lay in shadow, ruled by the traitors who had stolen Lyra's honor and name. Their power was strong, but Lyra's fire burned stronger. They know I am alive, Lyra said, tightening her grip on the glowing blade, and they fear me. The human nodded. Lord Vasher will not wait. He will strike first. We must be ready. The days that followed were filled with quiet preparation. Lyra trained harder than ever, her blade dancing through the air with deadly grace. The human forged new weapons and set traps around their hidden base. Their bond grew, built on trust and the promise of vengeance. But even among allies, there was betrayal. One night, a shadow slipped into their camp. Kale, the loyal young warrior who had pledged himself to Lyra, confronted the intruder. The man spoke in whispers, promising gold and power to anyone who would betray the fallen queen. Kale's heart wavered. The temptation was strong, but his loyalty to Lyra was stronger. He warned her just before the enemy came. Under the cover of darkness, Lord Vasher's hunters descended on the hidden forge. Their armor glowed with deadly tech, and their weapons hummed with energy. The battle began, with a sudden roar, steel clashing and sparks flying. Lyra moved like a whirlwind, her new blade slicing through enemy ranks. Beside her, the human fought fiercely, his skill and strength a perfect match for the enemy's cruelty. Their followers rallied, their courage ignited by Lyra's fierce spirit. But Vasher's forces were many and relentless. In the chaos, Kyle was struck down, his blood staining the rocky ground. Lyra's heart screamed, but she fought on, fueled by pain and rage. The blade glowed brighter, its power awakening as if feeding on her fury. Then came the moment that changed everything. Lord Vasher appeared, towering and cruel, his eyes burning with hatred. He wielded a dark weapon, one that seemed to swallow light itself. Lyra faced him, the weight of her lost honor pressing down on her. "You will never reclaim your throne," Vasher hissed. "Your name will rot in the shadows." But Lyra raised Starfang, her blade pulsing with radiant energy. "My name is not yours to destroy," she replied, "and my honor is stronger than your lies." The two clashed, light against darkness, power against cruelty. The battle shook the mountain, the ground trembling beneath their feet. As they fought, Lyra felt something new, the strength of her people, the hope of those who still believed in her. Her blade sang with power, cutting through the darkness that had held her captive. With a final mighty strike, she shattered Vashar's weapon. He fell to his knees, defeated but alive. Lyra stood tall, her name rising from the ashes of betrayal. "This is only the beginning," she said, voice steady. "I will restore what was lost, for my people, for my honor." The hunters retreated, into the night, their leader broken. But Lyra knew the war was far from over. Stronger enemies would come. Darker shadows would fall. Yet she was no longer the broken queen they cast aside. She was a warrior reborn, her blade shining with the light of 1,000 stars, and the galaxy was watching. The battle for honor. The dawn broke over the scarred battlefield, casting pale light on the warriors gathered. Lyra stood at the front, her blade Starfang humming softly in her hand. The air was thick with tension. This was the fight that would decide her fate, her honor, and the future of her people. Beside her, the human warrior readied his weapons, his eyes calm but fierce. Their bond had deepened through countless battles, a silent promise that they would stand together no matter what came. "Today we fight not just for revenge," Lyra said, her voice carrying across the ranks, "but for justice, for those who believed in me, for the Valkar who were lost to fear and lies." The soldiers raised their weapons, a roar rising from the crowd. Hope flickered in their eyes, fueled by the queen who refused to be broken. Lord Vasher's forces advanced like a dark storm, their numbers vast and their weapons cruel. But Lyra's warriors stood firm, inspired by her strength and the power of the Starfang. The battle erupted with a clash of steel and sparks that lit the sky like fireflies. Lyra fought with deadly grace, every strike fueled by years of pain and determination. The blade pulsed with radiant energy, cutting through enemy armor and despair alike. The human was a whirlwind of force beside her, his skill turning the tide where the numbers threatened to overwhelm. But then, amidst the chaos, a secret was revealed. Vasher's right hand, a shadowy figure named Malric, stepped forward. His voice carried a cruel secret. Lyra's past was not as she believed. "Queen," Malric sneered, "your throne was lost because of your own blood. Your father betrayed you. Your people turned against you not out of fear, but because of his lies." The words hit Lyra like a dagger. Doubt and pain flickered in her eyes. For a moment the battle slowed. Enemies and allies alike watched as Lyra struggled with the truth. Was her fall really the result of betrayal from within? Had her bloodline been poisoned? Then, with a roar that shook the battlefield, Lyra raised Starfang high. "Blood may stain, but it does not define me," she declared. I choose my own fate, and I will fight for the Valkar, for the future I believe in. Her blade blazed with light, slicing through the darkness of lies and doubt. The warriors rallied, their spirits lifted by her courage. The fight raged on, fiercer than ever. Lyra faced Vasher once more, their battle a storm of power and will. The human fought through enemy ranks, breaking their lines and protecting Lyra's back. As the sun climbed higher, Lyra found strength not only in her blade but in her heart. She was more than a queen. She was a symbol of hope, courage, and unbroken honor. With one final strike, she defeated Vashar. His dark weapon shattered and his reign ended. As silence fell over the battlefield, Lyra looked at her warriors, tired, wounded, but victorious. "This victory is not mine alone," she said. "It belongs to all who dared to believe. Together we will rebuild. Together we will rise." The name forbidden for so long was now spoken with respect and hope. Lyra's honor was restored, stronger and brighter than ever. But in the shadows, new threats waited. Her journey was far from over. Restoration and revenge. The air was thick with silence as Lyra stood atop the ancient throne room of Arcanus, the place where she had once ruled, where her honor was stolen, now bathed in the soft glow of dawn. Her blade, Starfang, rested at her side, humming gently, a symbol of her strength reborn. Her people gathered below, eyes filled with hope and fear. Many had forgotten her name, but today they would remember. Today Lyra would reclaim what was taken, not just a throne but the soul of a kingdom. But the road to restoration was not easy. Old wounds ran deep. Some whispered doubt, some plotted in the shadows. Enemies who survived the battles still lurked, waiting for a moment of weakness. Betrayal had once shattered Lyra's world, and it threatened to do so again. Yet Lyra stood firm. Beside her, the human who forged her blade remained her silent guardian and closest ally. Their bond had grown beyond warrior and queen. It was now a partnership forged in fire and blood. "The enemy is clever," he warned. "They will try to break us where they could not before." Lyra nodded, her eyes fierce. "Then we must be ready, not just to fight, but to unite." As days passed, Lyra worked to rebuild the city and its people. She reached out to old allies and new friends, gathering those who still believed in justice and honor. Her name, once forbidden, became a rallying cry. But the greatest challenge was yet to come. Lord Vasher's last loyalists had retreated into the deep caverns beneath Arcanus. From there, they plotted their final strike, an attack meant to crush Lyra's return forever. One cold night, as the city slept, the caverns trembled. Shadows moved like a flood, and chaos erupted. Lyra and the human led their warriors into battle once more. The clash was brutal and desperate. Starfang blazed with power, cutting through the darkness. Lyra fought not just for herself, but for every soul who believed in a better future. In the heart of the caverns, Lyra faced Vasher's second-in-command, a fierce warrior named Malric, who bore the scars of past battles and the weight of bitter loyalty. Their fight was fierce, echoing through the tunnels like thunder. Every strike tested Lyra's skill and will. But with Starfang's power and her unbroken spirit, Lyra triumphed, defeating Malric and shattering the enemy's last hope. Victory came, but it was bittersweet. The city was scarred and many lives were lost. Lyra mourned the fallen, friends who gave everything for honor and justice. Yet as she stood on the rebuilt throne, her hair beginning to grow back like silver threads of hope, Lyra knew this was not the end. It was a new beginning. Her name was no longer forbidden. It was a symbol of strength, resilience, and courage. And her blade, forged by a human's hand, bonded to her soul, was a beacon for all who believed in honor.